Hello, my friends. This is Andy Falco Jimenez, and I am the host today. Sorry, I didn't have my lower third up of the California Parent Alliance podcast. I'm also the president of the California Parent Alliance podcast. That is a fairly new thing. It's been for the last couple months. We are making some huge changes in the organization. We are making some alliances that are going to be very important, I think, to many parents in regard to vaccine mandates and to legal actions that can be taken and that kind of stuff. So I encourage you to go to the CaliforniaParentAlliance.org website, CaliforniaParentAlliance.org website. The old one is still up, but you can still subscribe and register for the announcements. We're going to have an online, some online programming coming up, and then we're going to have a live program that you'll definitely want to attend with some very good speakers. It's just too early to tell you all those things. As we get confirmations, we'll be able to tell you who's going to be there. All right, so this is a new platform for our Placentia Yorba Linda School District recap. It's also a little bit late with Thanksgiving and some other things that were going on in our life here in the family. We are a couple weeks after the meeting, and the meeting was an amazing one. It was so amazing that I wanted to bring on my good friend Leandra Blades, who is one of the school board members, to help me discuss what went on in the meeting. So Leandra Blades, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. I understand it's your son's birthday. I appreciate you coming on your son's birthday.
Yeah. In fact, you got me out of making the food run for him. So my oldest is taking over for that.
Well, very good. I'm so happy that I got you out of that thing. It really appears to me that things are really starting to happen in regard to parents. We're beginning to win on the, on the fight for our kids. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to say anything that's going to be too slanted one political party over the next. But really, this is a fight about parents for our kids. We can't necessarily continue to say, as we did for many of our other shows, that it's a conservative or conservative Christian thing. It really is a parent thing. What are your thoughts on that? Have we transitioned from a political issue to more of a parental issue?
So I kind of think that there's been a transition for some parents that has become a strictly parental thing. But then I also think that there's some who've kept it political as well. I feel like most of the people who I'm speaking to now, it really has, it really is a parent issue because there's so many of the choices that are being taken away from our parents, vaccinating your kids, the masks. I mean, I get these text messages, emails, messages, Facebook, everything, all these articles that from all these people all over the United States, all over the world that are saying masks are bad for the kids and they're, the stuff that it's doing to their brain and the learning loss and all of the health issues that these masks are causing. And yet you're just like powerless as a school board and you're powerless as a district to do it because of the CDPH and, the state's control over all of this. And so I really do think just from all the parents, I had a parent meeting today with, parents from our district. I think, they voted me in and I need to hear them. So I try as much as possible in meetings with people every week and they tell me their concerns and, what they can do to get involved. So yeah, I'm just listening today. There was nothing political whatsoever about today. It was all about the vaccine mandate, about choice, about all this stuff. So, but then you do look out and you see a lot of politics that are still coming into play. Like there was a lot of those students from Chapman who, parents were telling me that they were instructed, that came to the last board meeting, and I think they were wearing green shirts. The parents in line were telling me that their goal was to take the seats so the parents and the people who belong to our school district would not be able to, to sit in the seats and to attend. And a lot of people in line were asking, they go, what district are we in? Where is this? What's this district called? Right. And they're trying to fill out comment cards. And so I would say that in that aspect, there's people who are bringing in politics. But there's, genuinely, I think the people who are attending these school board meetings are parents that are absolutely concerned about their kids' future, not only their future health, but their future education.
So just to help some of the other parents in other school districts, I know that when we generally talk, we're focusing on Placentia Urban School District, but if you haven't noticed, I've been elected president to this organization that's been around for a couple of years, the California Parent Alliance.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was surprised, but it's a great organization. But to speaking to them, how important, and let me show a slide here really quick. This is what it looked like at the very last meeting inside. Every seat is taken. It actually looks a little bit less than the one previously because we were allowed to have standing room only, but they restricted that this time. And then outside, it was this large crowd. So inside we had a large crowd, outside we had a large crowd. It was so big that the police were called in large numbers and the fire department was called in large numbers. I'll get to that point in 1 second. But what impact on a school board and the superintendents who are in attendance, what kind of impact does the attendance of the parents in that type of size group, how does that impact what's happening on the inside and on their decision making?
Well, I mean, okay, so I just want to be clear too, so nobody can say anything. I'm here talking as myself, not as, a representative of the entire school board. These are my own facts. These are my own opinions. So for me, when the last meeting where there was standing room only, I thought that was amazing. I really did. I thought like, wow, this is awesome. There's other people who didn't have my views on that. They thought it was like intimidating and dangerous and certain things like that. And that just wasn't, prior law enforcement, I think we just look at the world, we look at things just differently. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel anything. But I would say that that was an amazing night because there were so many people and there was so much concern. And then I remember like when we did the national, not the national anthem, when we did the Pledge of Allegiance, everybody was like, it was so loud and there was so much emphasis. And then when the kids sang and they were singing the patriotic songs, I just thought that the crowd size and then all of the patriotic things that were happening, I thought that was just an amazing thing. Yeah. And great. I just feel like, I'm wondering, and I've suggested maybe do we change the venue? Because I don't think it's fair that if we're going to have a certain political side that just doesn't agree with what's going on in our district, but they have zero to do with our district, and they're going to bring in people to specifically fill seats. So parents of the children in our district can't get in, can't have their opinions, have to stand out in the cold. Then I do think that, even though we've paid a lot of money, to get the live streaming in, I do think we need to make some accommodations for these people outside because, like they were saying, it was freezing that night. It was so cold, and I wasn't aware how cold it was because we walked into the meeting at 3:45 that day. So it wasn't until I walked out at almost midnight that I realized how cold it was. But yeah, I thought so at least maybe like we have heaters outside next time, or we do something so people aren't so miserable. But I did think that was. That it was a shame that the parents in our district weren't all able to interact in the room and to see what's going on firsthand. Because, while you can watch things live streaming, there is something about being in person.
Yeah. What was the thought behind having the, calling in the police and the fire in large numbers? Was there truly some concern? I know that people made mention that one of the things that some of the parents feel is that it's a way of intimidating the parents on some level. When they're called in, is there a discussion with the school board? Like, hey, we're going to call in the police and the fire department because there's a concern, or what can we tell our parents about that move or that need?
I think it was mainly just to keep the peace because, you hear there's a lot of rumblings that you hear. And at the last one with, the 400 people, there was some things going out on in the room, little things here and there and in the lobby. And I think it was mainly just the police were there and the security were there just to make sure to kind of keep the peace in case there was anything. I think it was a more offensive and proactive approach this time to keep people safe. And with the room, there were some complaints that there was a fire hazard, and the aisles were blocked and doors were blocked. And so, you have to keep it, as a school district and as a superintendent, I would imagine he wants to make sure that, he keeps the school and the district safe from any type of, liability. So
Right.
I think it was just basically, it wasn't anything against the parents. I think it was just one of the things where he's want to make sure everybody was safe. If there was some type of fire, some type of incident, that people were able to get out. And then, we had called in the fire authority to reassess the room to see how many seats could hold and be done safely. So it wasn't anything against any type of parents or whatnot. It was just, there was people in the room who felt completely safe. There's people who said that they felt unsafe. There's people who thought it was a fire hazard. So I think it was just mainly to do that. It was an appeasement of everybody, and it really wasn't any harm in doing so.
Right. And we see in restaurants, there's a limitation on how many people can be in a restaurant, in
Right.
a movie theater. And so I felt that, and it wasn't as if the law enforcement was trying to be intimidating, very accommodating. Right. Everybody was talking to them. A lot of us know the different police officers because they're part of our community. And so I felt, I didn't feel, but I just knew there were some parents that were, just concerned about some other stuff. I want to talk about when the parents get up and speak, because we have a large number of parents, and I want to share just one of the videos of somebody speaking. It's one of my more favorites of the night. There was a bunch of great ones, and because I choose somebody doesn't mean that yours wasn't as good, but not you, but the people watching, because I know people are watching
right
there. But the sound was awful. Hopefully, with all the money they spent on the stream, that they'll fix the audio too.
And I think too, and I watched back the next day, and then my husband was watching at home, and my kids, and they all noticed. They said, just tell everybody to stay back from the mic, because if you did notice, when they got really close to the mic, that's when the sound was terrible. And I'm just glad I have a voice to speak again, because I was like trying to just be heard.
That was pretty funny. Okay, here we go. Here's a speaker from that night.
I have 2 young children enrolled here at PYLUSD, and my youngest child has yet to experience a normal school education. My other son's last normal experience was when he was in Preppy K. 52% of kids ages 5 through 11 had COVID as of June, per CDC. Likely 50 to 60% now after the Delta wave. An indiscriminate vaccination policy in children will result in an unintended harm. These are self-inflicted wounds on our nation's children. Children have a 99.998% chance of survival. What I find confusing is that there are already been other districts that have already stated that they will not be enforcing the vaccine mandate. They are willing to turn down the COVID funding that you are getting from following this mandate, a mandate that is causing more harm to children than good. Suicide rates, health issues, etc. are at an all-time high. And for what? I ask one more thing from the board and the district. Be that district, be that board that stands for freedom, that stands for the rights of our children and your students. Be that district that follows the Constitution of the United States. We have rights, acknowledge those rights.
Thank you.
Well, that was one of my favorites of the night, along with about 20 others. My first question for other, again, parents attending other school board meetings: how impactful are those moments that a parent gets up there and speaks to the school board?
I think it's super impactful, because we need to know how all the parents are speaking, and I think people, I think it's terrible that we only give them 1 minute, because you should be able to go up there and speak, and you should be able to say what's on your mind and not have to tailor it to 1 minute. But it is good to see what people's perspectives are, and it is good to know that there's people out there that are watching and that are behind you. Because I feel like as we've gone on and the more parents come and the more parents speak, you not only feel like not more emboldened, but you feel like it kind of gives you a little bit more courage and a little bit more fight, that you're just not alone. That when you stand up, that there's a lot of people behind you. And there's a lot of people who are watching at home, and they said, man, this live stream is the best thing ever. We never knew what was going on. And so it's good. It's good to hear, and it's even good to hear the opposite perspectives on things. But I think what it comes down to, and I think a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who feel certain ways, whether they want the vaccine or not, a lot of people have agreed that what it comes down to is parents' choice.
Right.
Parents' choice is their kids.
With everything that's happening in the courts in regard to the federal mandates that Joe has been, I tried not to use any other name for him, which is not easy. He's been shut down on everything in regard to a mandate. In our school district, again, I will continue to say I believe our school district happens to be one of the better ones, even though we are there fighting compared to what other ones that we have here in California that are having far bigger problems than we are.
Right.
But with all that, is it possible? And I understand that there's other organizations and statewide agencies that are dictating certain things. But if the courts are saying the mandates are unconstitutional and unlawful, how is it possible that a school district can put in a mandate? Where again, we understand that mandates aren't necessarily laws that we voted on and that have been put properly in place for them to be a law. Where does a mandate, fall in regard to what a district can do? Can they disregard a mandate?
So what happened is with the mask mandate that came from the CDPH, and that's like the requirement that they've brought down. That's my understanding. And, you keep reading things every single day and people keep throwing out so many codes. So you're constantly looking at all the codes and trying to send it over, to the district. Hey, what about this code? What about this code? As far as I know, they'll let them breathe. I read all the transcripts from the court, and it is it's a recommendation about this, the quarantine and the testing. And so what happened is Dr. Chow from the OC Health Department has gone stricter than the CDPH. And he took what they had as a recommendation and he made it a local health order for Orange County. And that's why we have this decision tree, which is basically treating the vaccinated differently than the unvaccinated and requiring the testing and the quarantine. So what was a recommendation, he's made a health order for Orange County. And that's why we're stuck doing some of the stuff that we are. I don't think that since the CDPH has required these masks statewide, we're kind of stuck with this. But they did only recommend certain things. But what happened was Dr. Chow went stricter than them. And so we have to follow the local Orange County health order. And so that's been my thing is when people ask me, I said, why are we not directing it to Dr. Chow? And the Board of Supervisors for Orange County is aware of this because we've made them aware that he's gone stricter than the CDPH and that, this is the problem is right now is the vaccinated and unvaccinated haven't been considered a class yet. So the whole discrimination type thing. But, I'm starting to think that it's going to start coming this way because it seems that every day, the Constitution's starting to come into play in the states and nations and stuff. So my thought has always been is how come nobody's turning their attention to Dr. Chow with this decision? Mm-hmm. Because if he had not made it a local health order, we wouldn't be having to do the quarantine and the testing like we've been having to do. So we keep saying Dr. Chow, but I don't know why they keep coming back to the district and yelling at us when we have to do that. I mean, like the mask, I think everybody's pretty much because all the schools are having to do it. So I think everybody realizes that's a state thing. But there's like I think in LA County, somebody said, what are you talking about? We don't do that. And I don't know if LA County, they seem to sometimes be stricter. So I don't know what LA County's done. But it appears that this is what he's done in Orange County. And nobody quite understands why, he does this. And I know that there's been city officials who have told him, this is data, this is, and he just kind of ignores it from what I'm being told from these meetings. Because, we'll get a little bit of a debrief. And so he kind of, anything that he doesn't quite agree with, he just, oh, well, that's not factual. Well, it came from some pretty factual medical doctors. And I mean, we all know that Dr. Chow is not a medical doctor. So.
Right.
The mental health side of things. So.
Right.
So that's kind of a question of mine that I would ask all the other parents is, the attention needs to start turning to Dr. Chow and why he went stricter than the CDPH and, why the Orange County Board of Supervisors is allowing him to do discriminatory health orders.
Yeah, I
Because
went to.
as of right now, we do know that the vaccinated are spreading it. I know
Yep.
they spread it in our district. I've had parents say, my daughter's friend who's vaccinated gave my unvaccinated kid COVID, but she couldn't go to school and she can continue her sports once she has a negative test. But my unvaccinated kid is out for 14 days. How is this fair? And so I said, well, let's ask Dr. Chow. Let's ask who's our representative, Don Wagner. Let's ask him. How is this fair?
Right. Well, I've been to an Orange
I
County.
went off a little bit on that one.
Oh no, that's okay, because I went to an Orange County supervisors meeting, and you have to wait outside.
Yes.
You can't be inside. You gotta,
Right.
and then they call you in to speak, and then you leave. And I don't even think Chow was at the one that I was at.
Right.
He was on vacation or something. Who knows what he was doing? We
are going to have on the agenda. I was hoping it would be on the December agenda, and so I'm not sure if it's going to be on. We have a really packed agenda for December, but I am trying to get it on the December agenda. But it would for sure be on the January agenda, to put it to a board vote if we should start treating every student in the district, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated, all the same. Mm-hmm. And so we are going to bring that forward to a vote. And I, of course, everybody's going to know what my vote is, because I'm the person putting the agenda item forward. But I do think that we can do better. And I think that the right thing to do is not to wait for other people to tell us what the right thing to do is, that we just need to go out and do it ourselves. Because part of the health orders are, you can always go stricter than the local health order, but you can never ease up. So we can technically go stricter. So as of right now, what we'd be doing is the vaccinated would have a stricter, the stricter course of action, because they would be the same as the unvaccinated right now. But everybody would be the same. Everybody would be equal.
I got you. So do we know what the ramifications of going against Dr. Chow? We've heard everything that it's $1,000 fine, and we could pay that. But we'll pay the guy that supports BLM to speak at a school for $60,000, but we wouldn't pay $1,000. So that's what I'm hearing. So do you have a feel for what actually is the consequence to a school district not following those orders?
They say that they can take away funding, and you see, and that's kind of the thing. Is like it's almost kind of like coercion. If these are like, and I continue to make the argument, and I continue with the same belief that mandates are not laws, and that this is a violation of our Constitution. And I continue to believe that. However, there's, we've had, there's threats of like lawsuits against, the district, against individual board members, against, there's just a lot of sides that there's a lot of, personal beliefs that people have. But as of right now, I do know that when earlier this year, when the mask deal came out, where they said that they were going to leave it up to the districts to enforce the masks, and some districts just said, well, fine, if they choose not to wear the mask, we're not going to enforce it. I do know that Chow was taking down names of those districts and turning them into state, and the state was paying visits to the schools. So I do know that there is that type of intimidation. I don't know, I haven't heard of any. I don't think anybody wants to be the first school to know what happens, but I think,
we might as well be.
I don't know, like there has to come a time when people just need to start standing. And we've been reaching out, to other school districts and, trying to find, because I think if we all could just stand together.
Well, I think, and I feel strongly that we now, with the presence of the parents we have there here are at the, attending, and the amount of emails and text messages I get from parents that say, gosh, I wish I could be there, but I work. And you were to take those numbers, they're very large numbers of people that would do that. And like the mom that was speaking in the clip that I played, she was saying, we need to be that district. We're asking the school board and the district to be those people that take a stand, be the ones. Somebody's has to do it. And why not us? I go back to when BLM and the Antifa came to Yorba Linda, and I don't believe you were at that event where they decided, but you made the right decision.
I was campaigning.
Yes, that they came, and we had enough Yorba Lindians there that said this is not going to happen in our city, and we fought against them. And they were so scared that Antifa went to the Orange County sheriffs that were there in this intersection of Imperial and Yorba Linda and asked for help because they were afraid what we were going to do. We did nothing to them. They were
Right.
just afraid. The perception was that we were not going to allow this to happen. They've never been pushed back on before. And
Right.
I feel like we are, again, this is the type of community that we have here,
Hmm.
that we will stand and support and be there. On the board of the California Parent Alliance, we have a restaurant owner who has not followed any of the mandates in the
Right.
Ventura County area, which is, and he's been fined, I think up to about $1 million. You got the pastor there, and his name is escaping right. We just talked about him last night. Anyway, he's been fined millions of dollars, and he's not
Right.
paid. But they are standing up. And it's not, again, it's just a bunch of talk so far. It's just a bunch of threats, because I believe that they know that they don't have a legal leg to stand on, so to speak,
Yeah.
on these issues. And so I know that you would be there for the fight, but
Oh yeah.
we must, I just feel like we have to be that district that fights back.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that, there's a board member for sure that's right there with me in that belief. He feels exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that because he's pretty vocal about it. But I do think that there has to be some type of stand. And I know that like the OC Board of Education has just sued Newsom again for the emergency order, like the improper use of the emergency order, because he keeps claiming this emergency order, yet his statements are, contradicting everything. It's just kind of more of a power grab. So, I think that we just have to keep, keep on doing this. And we have to keep the pressure on. We have to keep the lawsuits coming. Like somebody, there was a group text today that texted me about the whole mask thing. And I said, I told them, I said, I really think that it's just time that we start, like you start suing the CDPH. And if your kid has the bad acne or your kid has respiratory diseases, like somebody told me last week that their kid has polyps in their nose and the doctor says it's from the mask. Like that's when you say, okay, we're going to go sue the CDPH, because there really is no basis. The science isn't behind it. So when do you start just going after them and saying you're responsible for this? I mean, it's kind of like the vaccine. They want to push this vaccine, but nobody, when all this stuff goes wrong with it, nobody wants to take responsibility. Like, I think when people are starting to be held responsible, that's when the nonsense stops.
Yep. I had one teacher email me about my oldest son. His mask would slip down below his nose, and he sent me an email. And I responded with science and a bunch of other stuff. I'm sure that he did not expect. He thought he was going to get, I will talk to my son and tell him to keep his mask on, which he got just the opposite. I've not heard back from that teacher about about that thing. But I would say, other than that one teacher, I feel so strongly that the teachers are with us.
Yes.
I told you before we went live, I just got an email from a teacher who said that my name got thrown around at the union meeting that they were at. So they're well aware of this pushback. And and the teacher said she stood up for what I've been speaking about at the school board meetings, and said that there's a lot of teachers that support, but not only I say, but the rest of the parents about especially vaccines and masks. So it's not just the students, not just the parents, it's the teachers too.
And I think too, like with Dr. Chow and this, this quarantine and this testing stuff, I mean, the teachers are under so much stress. They are under so much stress because, I mean, if you think about it, they have to have a seating chart. They have to have all this stuff in line, and then if somebody has a contact, they have to go in and trace the contact. I mean, we should be allowing it. I think it's just a shame because of all the learning loss that we're experiencing. And then the teachers, wanting to just teach, and especially the younger kids with these masks and their special ed kids with the masks on. A lot of our special ed kids and the younger kids, they need to see the lips moving. They need to see, this type of stuff happening. And so I really do feel for the teachers. I think that some teachers have told me that they are more stressed out this year than they were trying to do Zoom at home.
Right.
And too, and like, I think if we get, I'm going to try to get an appointment with Dr. Chow and go in and talk to him, because I think he needs to hear not only from, from us, from a parent perspective, but also from the side of the teacher's perspective about how much stress and mental anxiety and just how hard he's making this job for them,
Well, if you want to know, I have a teacher that would probably stand right beside me.
Yeah, I would love, sure. I would love to get statements from everybody. And I would love to just, get just tons of evidence and be able to present it, because the teachers are struggling too. And I mean, do these teachers really want to be sitting in class and having to tell kids to pull up a mask all the time. I mean, is that really what they signed up to do? Or did they sign up to teach our children? I mean, nobody wanted to be a mask police. I mean, they could, if they want to be a cops, they would have gone another route,
Right.
I'm sure they just wanted to teach and not have to worry about this stuff.
Right.
So I feel really bad for the teachers too. And, I have one kid who, the mask, he thinks it's annoying, but it doesn't care. But another one really just bothers him. And so it slips down a lot. And so I did tell him the other day, I said, look, just like their own perspective, if somebody next to you, there's some kids, sometimes that they get nervous, your mask falls down, and they, say to him, I said, the teachers don't want to have to deal with this. So, just do your best to try to keep, it up. Nobody likes it, but, there's nothing really we could do about these masks. I mean, there is the Maskless Mondays that have been going on in some school districts where the kids are just flat out refusing to wear their masks.
Gosh, we need that. We need more of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but I just feel for the teachers. I feel for the principals, because I don't really think anybody wants this. I think this has all just been forced on them, and it's just like stressing everybody out, and like everybody's just angry at each other all the time. It's just really sad.
Yep. All right. We spend a lot of time on vax and masks, and it's important. I mean, it's really important. But the next subject, it'd be great just to go back to a school board meeting and talk about what math we're going to use, what good math we're going to use, not Common Core math, about, let's talk what's new about Columbus. We're going to teach our kids. We're stop talking about stupid crap. The next thing is the stupid CRT, the clearly racist CRT curriculum.
Right.
And you and your fellow school board members, a few of them, have gone to a place where we're beginning the process of banning it, which is taking longer than I would hoped. But can you kind of explain what the processes we're going through in regard to possibly banning CRT?
Right. So the reason that's taking so long is if you do a resolution doesn't need, 2 reads. You do a resolution and then boom, you could just read it and agree to it. Since this would be some type of a policy, it requires a couple reads because you're actually changing stuff. So the first read, we knew because, I brought it forward as an agenda item to see if we should move forward with it. And so we had the majority move forward with it. And then, the staff from the district kind of took what whoever made a statement, I know that Sean and myself and Marilyn kind of made an extensive statement. So they took what we had written down and presented that night. They took that, and then they took Buck and Freeman's statements or whatever they had to, to give input on. And they kind of took everything, and then they tried to see like what was different, what was similar, and then they put in a resolution. So when it went out on the agenda and everyone was there were some people losing their minds, some people, I wish that they would have known that was just kind of like a starting point. It wasn't going to be, we always kind of knew going in that that was not going to be the end all. That was going to be the first read. We were going to go through line by line, take things out, add things that we wanted in. So that was the first read. And then we had a majority to go forward to the second read. So the second read, I believe the way that they're going to run on the next agenda is there's not going to be a study session before the board meeting like it was last time. We did the 4 to, I think it was 5:30 study session. So there's going to be about 30 minutes to go over. There's a paragraph left, and it's at the actual definition that they want to go over and kind of do. So we have about 30 minutes to go through, talk about that. And then after we finish that part, we'll vote to go forward. That'll be the second read. And then the final vote to ban would be January. So we still have another read. So there's not going to be a vote in December to actually ban it. It'll kind of be like the Eldorado Lights. You continue to vote to move things forward. So this next one will be hitting on the last paragraph with the definition and the bullet points that everyone was talking about, and then moving on with that.
Okay. I want to dispel a couple of myths that we hear a lot on the news, and from the school board meeting. Some people got up and said that CRT is not being taught, that there is no curriculum in the state of California for CRT. What have you found as a school board member about that myth or that rumor?
Well, I'm going to reach over and grab my phone because somebody sent me something earlier.
Okay.
Let me find it. Okay, so about that whole myth, it is because it is being taught because people have told us We get reports every week. Hold on 1 second. Carson has it. So they need my credit card, get dinner. So basically with, we get emails every week. We get text messages. People find me on Facebook, like I'm not even friends with them, and they just find us and then they say this happened. So what we always do is we, say, go to the principal. A lot of people, a lot of parents are fearful to go to the principal because they're fearful if the teacher finds out what kid it is, that they're going to retaliate, or the school's going to retaliate, or somebody's going to retaliate. So, but yeah, every week, there's one was the founding fathers were racist. I mean, I don't know how many people have told me there's certain teachers who said, leave your white privilege at the door. Yep. There's been people, there's been teachers talking, completely political, how terrible the Trump administration was and how amazing the Biden administration was, and how racist the Trump administration was and how good the Biden administration was. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, have said it's their white privilege. We even had, there was a huge, I was golfing one day with my husband. We were doing a golf foursome. And we're out there on the golf course, and somebody is, calling me, and they're in a panic because their kid is being told that they did something because of their white privilege. Mm-hmm. And that is CRT in essence. You don't tell, has anybody ever told you that the reason you did something, if you did something wrong, is because you're white? And that's the whole thing. And that's why I think when people keep saying, oh, well, it's not being taught. Yes, it is being taught. It's being taught. Teachers know it's being taught. We have other teachers who are emailing us saying what lesson plans are and that the teachers are teaching this because they're concerned. And so, there's teachers who are trying to pawn their anti-race curriculum, to other teachers, that's not approved by the district. And this is common knowledge. This is out in the public because, I go to these community meetings and everybody talks about this. So it's not like I'm, spilling secrets. This is just common knowledge. So when these parents come in and they say this stuff, we know, I know it. It's been taught to my kids. So, when they come home and they say this, and I go, oh yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. This is CRT. So, yes. To say that it's not being taught, I've seen it from my own eyes in my kids. So, and I think too, to continue to say it's not being taught, you're discrediting a lot of parents who do know what they're talking about, who are educated, and who know what CRT is. And then I'm going to look real quick.
While you're looking, I was just going to share the story that of my son came to me and says, I was just told, he goes, Dad, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I've heard you talk about it. My kids are conservatives. But he said, a friend of mine was told by a teacher that police officers are killing Black people at about 1,000 to somewhere. He didn't know for sure what it was. It was between 1,000 and 10,000 a year, hunting them down and killing them for no reason. And the friend who was told this by the teacher, his father is a police officer, and now he won't talk to his father because of this thing. And that was the one that I gave at the school board meeting during the CRT study. And apparently that's what they were talking about, the union, that they didn't believe my story. That's a truthful story. I can give you the child. But when we're talking about CRT, maybe in some cases they're not teaching a CRT course or out of a curriculum, but it is the principles, the theory or the principles that are the thing that are being taught, that the teachers are taking upon themselves to bring to the classroom to indoctrinate the children with their theories. And that's what the problem is. So sorry, while you were looking, I wanted to make sure and share that story. But you being a police officer, me being a police officer, this is the type of thing that now the teachers are turning our kids against us.
Right. On the California Teachers Association, the CTA website, it said that police officers are terrorists. And I have a screenshot of that I will forever keep. That's some of the things that they preach, that they're specifically said police officers are terrorists. There was all kinds of white supremacist, saying, and it was like, make America great again as a white supremacist. I don't know if Let's Go Brandon is a white supremacist statement now. I don't know. But
since the last meeting, it might be in the video that we put together.
But the thing is that when you're when you go to the California Teachers Association website, and I know they took some of the stuff down as it started to become more known what they were pushing. When that stuff was up, a lot of it was what critical race theory is about, that they were pushing that was good, and what was bad was police officers. What was bad, I mean, it was just appalling. And I wish I should send you so you could put it up for your viewers, what this stuff was. But it was just appalling. And here was, so the Liberated Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum Coalition is training teachers how to teach CRT without calling it CRT. They watched 3 hours of video, and there was the video opens with comments on the Yorba Linda School Board. So they're commenting on us because we're trying to ban it. So I'm just going to say right now is, if they're the people who are doing the Model Curriculum Coalition are trying to get teachers how to teach it without calling it CRT, then we're teaching CRT. And if we're trying to avoid doing it now, then obviously there's something going on here, and it just has to stop. And I just feel like for people to say it's not being taught, it's not being taught. Every week we get things from parents, and we know it's being taught. And I'm not saying it's every teacher. I mean, it's just a few, here and there that we get, but it's enough to know that there's a problem and that you have to do something about it. Because it's like anything. It's like any job. There might be a few who might, think going to go off the rails a little bit, or I'm going to go teach it regardless of what I'm told to do. Right. And so I kind of feel like that's the same thing here. And people have signed petitions and said they're going to teach CRT regardless if it's against their district or against their law, or against the law. They're going to teach it anyways. There's lots of those petitions that have gone around. So, I mean, I think it is a problem. And the whole thing too is I did run, my campaign was on traditional curriculum and keeping social justice, politics, critical race theory, everything out of education. And my whole thing is this, is whether you agree with critical race theory or you don't, whether you agree with certain politics or you don't, whether you agree with social justice issues or you don't, what is it having? Why do we need to have it in the schools? And most people would say, and from what I've asked people, they say, well, these parents won't teach it at home to their kids. Okay, so the only way they can get it taught is in the schools. So they're using a school for the platform. They're using the schools. And so we need to go back to just teaching the basics and teaching the curriculum and putting forward, the best that we can, kids that are educated and that can go into the world and make a difference, and not, spend time in our schools learning how to hate each other or to feel guilty because they're white, or, to dwell on these other things. And that, our mission statement absolutely doesn't say anything about having divisive curriculum, pitting things about it. It's all about excellence and standards and, pushing these students out into the world to be as successful as they can in everything that they endeavor. And so that's really, I feel like if you're going to allow politics and social justice issues and critical race theory into the classroom, we are actually going against what we want to achieve as a district. We can only achieve what our, oh my gosh, I just lost the word. We can only achieve what we want to as a district, and what we're, telling people that our goals are, is if we just teach the actual curriculum.
Right. And that's one of the myths that was even brought up again. Another parent got up and says, we have to teach children about slavery. We have to teach children about the bad things that our country has done. And when did that stop? I mean, I was taught about slavery. We watched Roots in the classroom, and talked about Roots when it was being televised on television. We talked about, many of the other things that has been done in this country and other countries around the world. That has always been a part of the study of history. It must be the study, a part of the study for history. And so this thought that we've stopped teaching, but I don't know what we're teaching if we're not teaching that in history.
I think what happens too is I think we're teaching the history, we're teaching the facts, and we're not blaming. Right. And critical race theory is a lot of blaming. And I mean, even going, there's a lawsuit right now against critical race theory because the religion, prayer in schools and teaching the Bible in schools and certain things like that, you're not allowed to do that. And so one of the chapters in the ethnic studies, has the students chanting and praying to these Aztec gods. And someone kept going up there and saying, that's not happening. They're not doing it. And it's like, okay, well, here's the chapter, here's this, and here's what it is. And now there's a lawsuit against the state about this. So let's not say that that's not happening.
Right.
But it's just, I don't understand it. And too, and like we learned about slavery. We learned about, the world wars in Germany and all these, the Japanese internment camps. And like, I never thought to sit there. Like I felt bad for the Japanese when you learn in history about the camps and, and then like, we need to know our history because we should learn from it and not let it repeat itself. But we shouldn't go around playing blame games because what happened 300 or 400 years ago, none of us could control.
Yeah, I had a friend, his name was Jerry Fujita. I remember this. We grew up in the same area. And when we were talking about the internment camps that the Japanese were in, he said, my parents were there and my grandparents. And his parents were born in the camp when his grandparents were there. And I said, oh, wow. I said that, I'm sorry that happened to your grandparents. And then we went on and played football.
Right.
And so I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what this had to do with me. My dad was in World War II and was in the Army in World War II. Am I going to blame my dad for what happened here in the United States with his grandparents? No.
Right.
It's part of our history. It's just part of what happened. But he never looked at me as if like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore now that I know this about, what happened here in the United States.
Right.
No. And we could go on with all the other stuff.
Kind of a funny story was I just found out like maybe a month or two ago that my great grandparents might have immigrated here illegally from Mexico and Spain. And I am for me, I'm for coming here the right way and stuff. Am I upset with my I mean, it's just like that's part of our history, and you just learn from it. And we all have things in the past, and I don't know. I just feel like we need to concentrate on the present. Let the history be our guide as to the mistakes that we shouldn't be making in the future, and like learn from it. But to make people feel like because of their race or because of their skin color or because of their religion, that anything. I mean, I just feel it's just wrong, and we're taking our eye off the ball, which is educating kids.
I'm going to hit a couple of these comments really quick. Stephanie Barris said back to when we were talking about the vaccines and the masking, is that my kids are afraid to tell their teachers if they have a tummy ache or tickle in their throat. It's super sad. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. And my kids will say, I'm not feeling that great. I go, okay, don't say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole panic. Like, I don't want you to now have to stay home for 7 days or whatever it is now.
It's crazy. And I feel like this whole thing is like really taking away, like, like when you talk about like the teachers and stuff, if things were going on at home or there's some problem, like, you always felt like, oh, what is it? Go tell a police officer, go tell a teacher. Like, I feel like anymore, like there's no telling anymore anything.
Yep.
Like, and I feel like that these kids have lost, like some communication and relationships with their teachers because you don't want to tell anybody anything.
Right.
And I think that's sad. And I also think it's dangerous.
Maria Stubbs says, thank you for putting this together, Andy and Leandra. You are welcome. I'd love it when I have Leandra on. We can get to the bottom of all this stuff. I'm going to bring up this flyer that found its way around before the last school board meeting. And it says, take action if you are able to attend the board meeting on November 16th, Tuesday, open to the public on, there at the school district. Right. Wear green in disapproval of the ban. I'm so sorry. The CRT ban. Right. And or voice public comment. And supposedly, if the child who attends the school did this, they would get volunteer credit at the school. Are you aware of this flyer that went out? Has there been any talk about, can a teacher do this? Can a teacher give volunteer credit to speak, for something like CRT?
So I know that, that was sent to me like a few hours before the board meeting. People were like so upset. Parents were so upset. And so, teachers can give extra credit, for attending certain things. But I think from my understanding, when I asked about this was, they said, well, you can't instruct somebody to speak for only one like political side. Attend the board meeting because like this is a good political thing. This is good, for the school to, just certain things like that. But you can't make them pick a side to get the extra credit or to get the hours. And I think, I don't know, that was pretty, like what if you had somebody who maybe wanted to wear a red shirt, in that class? What are they going to give hours? Are they going to give the same as they are to the green? Right. So I think this was just like, if this was true and if this was going on, then I think that we were walking a really fine line. At just what is the appropriateness of this? You know,
I mean,
if it was a teacher, if it was a group, whatever it was, it should have been given to the whole class, not just if you're going to go wear a green shirt, you know?
well, this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. When
No.
during your campaign and after you got voted in, there was a teacher that was rallying children to create a Instagram community to get you, impeached of whatever. Well, I'm not sure what it's
Yes.
called, to get you to
Recalled.
resign, recalled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this isn't the first time.
No, this isn't the first time.
Sorry, looking at these things. Stephanie goes on. It's dangerous and traumatizing. It is, this whole thing. School has become such a difficult place for our kids. It's an important place for them to be. I'll just preface again that I think our school district is better than most. And many of the teachers that I've talked to, including the athletic director at your El Dorado, who I had the good fortune of talking to yesterday, great people, listen and dislike most of the stuff as much as we do. And that's the only thing that we have going for us. But we see here in these scores that 32.5% of the students from grades K through 8 in iReady, which is, we'll talk about that in just a second, but are below standard. And then another 23% are 2 or more levels below standard. When we're getting away and spending more time on these issues, that's by race, which is it's too hard to explain on this thing. But then we get into math, that's 43.5% are below level, and another 23% are 2 or more levels below. When we're spending so much time on these other issues, and worrying about policing masks and how much and telling kids they can't come to school because they got a little bit of a fever or tummy, how can we possibly focus on bringing these grades up? We've lost the purpose of what we want our kids to go to school. We want them to learn how to read. We want to learn how to count. We want them to learn how to write. We want to learn how to think, and we want them to socialize and make friends and have a great time in sports. We've lost all that. What's going on? What's going on? I don't know what to say. I don't even know what the question is, but Leandra, help us.
So when we get all of these online, apps and programs and stuff, most of the teachers that I've talked to, they've said we need to stay away from this stuff because those kids really need in-person instruction from their teacher. Not, like when you have so many online programs and your kids are in the classroom doing online programs, they're not learning a lot of times that way. There's some kids who do, like, there's my oldest, was in I had all 3 of my kids dealt with this when this COVID first happened. And, my oldest was fine. My middle kid was fine. My youngest was not okay with learning this way because it's just not him. So when we continue with the online programs, where some might succeed, but, it is like there's evidence-based research, there's evidence-based tech. I mean, all this stuff that says that these kids learn better in person with the teacher teaching them. And so when these programs come up and, we research them and they are, just riddled with social justice issues and CRT and all kinds of excess stuff, I deny it, not just because of that, not just because that's what I promised to my constituents and I promised to my voters that I was going to try to get out. I'm also doing it because there has to be another program that's better, that if there's 50% of social justice issues in a program and then there's 50% of curriculum, there has to be a program out there that at least has 80% curriculum and maybe 20% of social justice issues. And so those are the programs that I'm personally looking for when I'm doing my vote. And that's kind of my goal. And I'm listening to teachers and I'm listening to administrators and I'm listening to, people who tell me, like my uncle he retired this year, but he was a superintendent, his sister is a teacher. My dad was a teacher. I mean, there's a lot of people that I'll ask certain questions for, and just having 3 kids that have gone through this district and are still in the school district, you have friends and you ask your friends and you ask, when I go to these community meetings, you ask, how are your kids learning better? And every person that I'm listening to is saying, we hate the online programs.
Yep.
And iReady, is an assessment tool. However, a lot of teachers use it, just as a lot of teachers use it excessively. And the kids, don't like it. They'd rather read a book than go online and read iReady. And, to do the certain things that iReady asked of them. And so I think we just need to go back to, when we talk about traditional curriculum, let's go back to doing that, and let's get our kids back to where they need to be. And I'm not sure that these online, even these online math programs. I mean, like, I remember trying to do an SAT program that was like an online thing, and I hated it because it just, there was no explanation. Like, they're sitting there and you're trying to get an explanation. There's no explanation. And if it was such a ridiculous explanation that, like, well, okay, I'm even more lost now after trying to read this computer, to explain this to me. So, so a lot of people, after will say, like, accuse me of being racist, or accuse me of, all of this stuff for not approving these online programs that have a lot of critical race theory in there, or social justice stuff. But it's not that. I think that we can do better. And I think that we should be competitive, and we should be finding the best programs that, have good curriculum in them. Not, I feel like a lot of times, like, we just settle and we just are throwing money at a program, where I think we should be throwing more money at teachers, smaller class size.
That you took the word right out of my mouth.
And to be fair, it is hard right now to find teachers. It is hard, it's hard. However, I feel that we shouldn't be throwing our money at the online programs. We should be throwing them at teachers and smaller class sizes and more in-person instruction.
Absolutely.
So
and there's tons of parents. I know we have tons of parents that are willing to go into the classrooms. We see them all the time, that they've been, I don't know if are they allowed back in? Because I know they weren't having them for a little while because of the COVID constraints and things like that. I know
that if you want to volunteer, you have to have a negative COVID test, or you have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's even hard. It's hard for parents to even get in the schools,
Yeah. But that's the pain. But the amount of money that we're paying for, as you so awesomely pointed out in one of the school board meetings, I said, we're paying how much for these programs to be indoctrinated with the CRT curriculum. I mean, it was stunning. You could hear the air leave the room from all the parents breathing in, like, what? How much are we paying for these things? That the salary of a teacher that would be far more effective and far better for our kids, for the equal amount of money. I mean, even just a substitute teacher or a part-time teacher to come in and teach certain things, that if the teacher in the classroom was overwhelmed, at certain times, could come in there and help. But far better to have a live teacher of encouragement, a smiling face once you take the mask off, to help the children individually, is far better than a bland screen from a computer. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Geneva says here, just real quick, Geneva says, I agree, the online programs, a lot of the kids share, they don't care for them. Also, mindless assemblies they share are a waste of money. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just making the comment that, some of these things are a lot of money, and the $400,000 program I think you're speaking of, and a lot of people are still super upset about. There are going to be people who are coming in person. However, the program was so vague, and there was no Yelp reviews, there's no parental reviews, there was nothing. And it was so, there's just nothing. There's no evidence-based, nothing about what was going on here. And so that was, and we don't get, like, what some people say is, how come you don't, just, we get brought forward one thing. So if, you have to start asking, well, what's the next thing? And it's just, a lot of times, this is one thing that's brought forward. So it makes it hard. And then, sometimes people get worried, well, if we don't pass this, what's next? But I just think that sometimes, like somebody made the comment, well, if we don't pass this, if we do pass this, there's going to be people in the classroom helping right away. Well, who are these people, and what type of education do they have? A lot of the people that we looked up, and there's nothing wrong with Sylvan Learning Center, but there was, people who are I didn't find any actual teachers, as employees of this thing. I saw after school coordinators and after school, babysitters, and just different things like that. And so I feel like when we do these programs, is I really go and I research, I Google, I look at their blogs, I look at everything, because I feel like it's so important to know what and who we are bringing into our schools, and if we can do better. And I feel like if we can do better, then we should take a moment, we should step back, and we should just either put it on pause, or we just deny the vote. And then if we can't find anything better, we can always bring it back and then vote it in the next meeting if we can't find anything that's better. But I just feel like, we're here for the kids, and if I vote for something that I truly don't believe in and I think it might be just be crap, then I'm not doing my job. And
Right.
so that's why I vote no a lot of times. That's why I ask a lot of questions. And then I'm asking the questions too, because a lot of times the parents are asking me these questions. And so I'm getting the answers for like pretty much everybody. Because
Awesome.
transparency, I think, is the best thing that we could do.
For sure. And we appreciate you, Leandra, so much.
you.
And you and Sean and Marilyn's getting there. I've been happier with her lately. and I know that I don't want to say too much, but we will work on those other two in the next election. But I'm going to let you go because I know it's your son's birthday. I've kept you for an hour. I kept you for an hour. I'm so sorry, but there was so much ground to cover, and we talked a lot about it, a lot of different subjects. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna stay on for just a little bit. Okay. But there are a lot of great comments. People are wishing that you were part of their district, and Geneva agrees 100%. And throwing money at the teachers will not help invest money in your children with real books. Diaries are good for history. The Bible is a good start. Absolutely. Amen on that. Carol's a friend of mine from the Anaheim Police Department from years back. But Leandra, thank you. I appreciate you so much. Go and celebrate your son's 16th birthday.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. All right, my friends, that was fantastic to have Leandra on. There was so much to cover and I needed to get her input on a lot of things because, of course, I have my outside view of things, and sometimes, it just helps to have a little bit of behind the desk, behind those walls that they go to and talk about things that we'll never know what's going on. So it's really important to have Leandra as a school board member. So happy that we supported her. All of us that are, here in the Placentia Urban School District, we made the right decision. In Leandra and Sean, and again, we have another conservative, Marilyn, who's on there. That I am blurry. What happened? I look perfectly fine on my end. But thank you, Carol, for letting me know. One thing I want to encourage everybody to go to is, if you have not seen it yet, this banner here I'm going to put up. It's the CaliforniaParentAlliance.org. I have just been elected the president for the CaliforniaParentAlliance.org. If you could go there and subscribe, you're going to see the old website still. The old website, we're going into a transition. I was just elected president. I'm changing the website. We're changing some of the programming that we have going on, and we're going to educate parents on how to flip school boards, like we were able to here at Placentia or Belinda. We're almost there in its entirety. We're going to have organizations we're going to partner up with, some legal defense, children's legal defense. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s organization. We'll be teaming up with them, and a whole lot of other stuff going on. We're going to have an online event coming up in January, and a live event that you can come to with some great speakers in February. So again, make sure and go to CaliforniaParentAlliance.org. It won't cost you anything. It's free. Go there and subscribe. That way you can find out when the organizations are. We're going to have chapters. And so when we're ready for that, we will be looking for chapter leaders in different school districts to help with all that. And I think that's all I have for you. That was a long show. Sorry, it was a little bit over an hour, but that tends to happen when Leandra and I are on there talking. So I appreciate you guys so much coming on. And Geneva says Robert is a fighter. Yeah, I interviewed Alex, who is one of the board members for the organization, the day before yesterday. It was a great interview. She's amazing. All right, my friends, love you guys. God bless. We will expect to see you at the next school board meeting. Keep coming to the school board meetings. Again, bring more people, even if you have to sit outside for a little bit, and bring a sign. Let them know that you're present. Let them know that you care. As Leandra was talking about, we also need people to go to the Orange County Supervisors meetings in Santa Ana. And so you're going to want to make sure and find out when those are. I don't have any dates for you right now. We have a December meeting coming up. And if anybody could put that in the chat, I believe, hold on, PYLUSD.org. I'll tell you when the date is. I should have had that all ready to go. I do that every time. It is December 14th, 2021, December 14th. Make sure and be there for the school board meeting. They're at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. But again, there's so many people that are attending. You may want to get there a little bit early to make sure that you get a seat. But either way, even if you're going to be late, even if you're not there till 7:15, come there, be there, show that you care by being there. Let's build those numbers up. Let's just make it so that they have to move to another venue. Maybe we have to go to the Friends, Yorba Linda Friends Church and hold a school board meeting there because of we need the room or something like that. I'm not sure, but keep coming to the school board meetings. It's super, super important. And every other Tuesday for the Super Geneva knows she's amazing. Geneva's amazing. She goes to all of them. But every other Tuesday for the Orange County Supervisors meeting, go there and let your voice be heard. All right, my friends. Again, love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. See you at the school board meeting. Bye.